This week's episode of Doctor Who took the TARDIS to Lagos, Nigeria, in Africa, of course, a continent which the Doctor has visited in the past occasionally, and the show has visited in the past. But this was the first story actually, set there predominantly for the whole story, the story and the engine, and not with the word "and," but with a little "and" symbol, the ampersand. That seems to be, well, that's how it was in the title card on screen. I think other things like the Radio Times and websites and stuff have listed it with the word "and" instead, but that's the official title, much like with Love and Monsters way back in 2006. But yes, this story, what did I think of this, episode 5 of Ncuti's second season? I thought it was very distinctive, very unique, very original. I couldn't help but kind of be drawn to it. I'm not sure it's ever going to be like my favourite episode of this season or anything like that, a contender for that. And I think as well, with some of the explanations, particularly in the second half, of like what was going on, I'm not entirely sort of sold on that yet. I need to kind of watch it again, like with Nancy and the gods and the barber. What was going on there? I think the barber was like a vessel or a human vessel for Anansi or whatever that god was. But yeah, it was a bit confusing, and the resolution as well and all that kind of stuff. But to an extent, it didn't matter because I was just so kind of drawn to it and captivated by it, what was going on, and how unique and different and special it felt as well. It felt very authentic. We've got Anua Adams here, a Nigerian-born writer writing a story set in Nigeria. Like I say, the first Doctor Who story to actually be fully set in Africa, and I mean that world was created so well, from my money at least, with all the stuff with the markets at the start, and I think there were some drone shots taken actually in Lagos, but all the rest of it was done like in Cardiff on the Bad Wolf backlot or in studios and stuff, and it's like incredible to think that all that was conjured up, and it felt so real, that world. And 2019, hey, like 5 or 6 years ago, that felt weird, like having a story that's wasn't quite set in the present, I suppose for obvious reasons, because of this whole 24th of May thing. I kind of expected them actually to like have a little reference to COVID there, like Belinda's saying, this is just before COVID, isn't it? I'm guessing that's why 2019 was chosen and not 2020, which had been exactly 5 years ago, because everybody would have been locked down and in masks and indoors and stuff. Maybe it's for the best they didn't mention that, who knows. But yes, I thought all that stuff, with the setting and all of the cultural stuff as well, even with the barbershop and the screen in the barbershop, was it the window, I think, which had all these kind of visual manifestations of the stories being told, all these projected images and the kind of like animated sequences as well, which was a really cool effect. There was stuff like that in there that clearly was kind of coming in from Nigerian and African culture, these ideas, and a lot of stuff about stories and storytelling and the nature of stories that felt very new for Doctor Who, and it's very rare, I think, that something can feel truly new in the show, 60 years on, like last week, Lucky Day, that had similarities to Love and Monsters. Obviously the Midnight sequel before that in the World, which was very clearly harking back, and I suppose Lux as well was quite fresh with the animated character, but often, it's very difficult for these stories to feel unique and fresh, and this absolutely did. I think the way it was written by Nua and just what he brought to it as well, clearly, so much of his own experience and his own culture, and it felt very authentic, very different. I enjoyed that a lot, very educational as well, like the whole thing with the significance of barbershops in black culture and stories and hair as well. The whole thing with the link to slavery, I found that very interesting and very clever as well, how that kind of came into it at the end with the literal labyrinth, being there, in the Doctor's hair and him using that to escape. A really nice motif. It did certainly feel very theatrical, which again makes sense because Anua Adams is, first and foremost a playwright and a poet and a performer, and of course he cameoed in the story as one of the market traders as well. But I think you could tell that, and he'd written a play, I think, before, The Barbershop Chronicles, which is set in a barbershop much like this. This was, not to be reductive, but like a Doctor Who version of that play, of that story. yeah, you could tell there were a lot of kind of long scenes, and mostly kind of set in the barbershop, for the story as a whole, and yeah, kind of a lot of talky scenes as well, talking about a lot of stuff and getting into the nitty gritty of what's going on, and with all those actors there in that one room, and maybe that was a shortcoming of it, perhaps. Like, on the one hand, I wanted to see more locations, all the stuff with the labyrinth and the brain tree and going underground, the brief exterior shots as well of the spider and the barbershop on the kind of the back of the spider. Great, love all that kind of stuff, and kind of wanted more of that. But then as well, I suppose, did it actually feel more authentic to the premise to have it all in that one room and really get to know these characters? I mean, it really allowed us, for instance, to kind of get to know this character of the barber. And aside from the things I've mentioned, where it's not entirely clear what's going on here with him and Nancy and like who's who, I thought actually, I think Ariane Bakare, who has previously played Leandro, the lion creature in The Woman Who Lived in Doctor Who Series 9, way back like a decade ago now, I suppose, or coming up to. But I thought actually he was excellent in that role, and seeing the kind of progression for that character over the course of the 45 minutes or whatever it was, from someone who at first appears to be quite one note and evil and villainous, but then you strip back the layers. And I love the motif as well, like how his hair changed as he was cutting off locks of his hair gradually, as his character and his personality changed as well, and kind of got closer to the true version of him, building all the way to his kind of redemption arc at the end, where he's broken, he's a shell at the end, and he finds this new sense of belonging by being welcomed in by the missing people who were in the barbershop. But I thought that was really nice, and the way as well that kind of I suppose actually taps into like men's mental health, which is a nice kind of counterpoint to what we've had so far in this season with the opposite, like really bad examples of masculinity with Alan David Budd and Conrad Clark, the two evil, horrible, unworthy boyfriends for Belinda and Ruby. That was very nice to have a more positive presentation of masculinity there, and like brotherhood and fatherhood and all that kind of stuff, and some sense of community and camaraderie there. So yeah, I enjoyed that a lot, and the way it kind of came to a close there, and just the overall message and vibe of it, even if I didn't get exactly what was going on with the villain and the kind of the mechanics of the story, which is ironic for a story about stories. That was at least convincing. A brief word as well to our returning Doctor, Jo Martin, the fugitive Doctor. I cannot believe I've gone 8 minutes without mentioning her, but yes, it was fantastic to see her again. Very, very brief, far too brief, as with many of her appearances in the show. To be honest, it's sad that's kind of like a recurring trend with her and with our Doctor. I can only hope that now she's been welcomed back into the fold, and there's a precedent for it, that we see more of her, in this era or future eras. But yeah, fantastic to see her again. I had heard rumours that she was going to be in this, but even so, it was a great surprise. I didn't know when she was going to crop up, or in what guise, or what form. And so it wasn't like I was kind of waiting for her to crop up. It was a genuine, nice surprise to see her. So yeah, always great to see Jo, back. A big Jodie era fan myself as well. And it's really nice to have, I suppose, a reference like that to an era, the previous era, and kind of be bringing in elements like that. We have had it, I suppose, a bit with The Timeless Child and the continuation of that. But kind of like a new thing for the show to be doing, to reference something so recent and just be like continuing it and say, yeah, okay, she's here, she's not gone, she's still very much part of our mythology and part of the show, and to hell with it, we're going to bring her back. So yes, those are my initial rambly thoughts about the story and the engine. I do wonder why it was called The Story and the Engine and not just like The Story Engine. Would that have been a more apt title? Maybe. I don't know. I guess we'd have to ask the writer Anua, and maybe he's got an explanation for that, like a reason why the and had to be there. I'd love to know. But yes. Anyway, what did you think of this story? This very different story for Doctor Who. Did it work for you? Did it not work? Let me know all of your thoughts and comments and opinions in the comments below, your theories for what's coming next as well, the dangling threads, which I'm sure I'll talk about more in the roundtable review and other videos for this story. Please leave a like if you have enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're so close to 9,000 subscribers now. It'd be really great to get there. Any help is appreciated. But otherwise, until the next one, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.